Welcome to the Millennial Mrs. podcast with me, your host, Trinae Watson. And I am so excited today to have the Mrs. Chantre Phillips.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, we here at the Millennial Mrs. podcast, for those who are new tuning in, the purpose of the Millennial podcast is to create a platform for amazing women to come on and to give their story of how they have overcome different challenges and how they are thriving in their areas of expertise to give you some motivation, to empower you to know that, guess what? Even if things look hard, even if things seem difficult and it seems like you can't do it, you can do it, okay? Because there are so many women out here doing it, juggling it, balancing it, and making it happen. So, without further ado, I want everybody to know who you are. I've known you for a couple of years
Yes.
through college and everything else. So it's been a pleasure to see all the things that you have been having going on. So if you can introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Chantre Phillips, formerly known as Chantre Ferguson. So I have been married going on, we got married 21. We'll be in 21, 22, 23, 24. Wow. It'll be going to 4 years in September. So
Okay.
so I've been married for 4 years in September, um, to my husband, Devin Phillips. And like Trinae said, that we've known each other, attended the University of Maryland Eastern Shore,
All right.
um, where, I received a degree in fashion and business. And now I am here and I'm doing business, but definitely nothing in fashion. Uh, except for getting dressed up to go to my closings with my clients. But I do have a business where I am an entrepreneur and I sell real estate. So I help with, people, helping them buy and purchase real estate, whether it's land, homes, whatever it is, everything real estate. So that's me.
I love that. Listen, we all have a pivot. I went to
Yes.
college and have a degree in biology pre-med. And
Right.
see, that is not happening.
Right.
So
Yes,
it's the
absolutely.
foundation. We went
Exactly.
there, we did a thing,
Yep.
and we left with a degree. So
Exactly.
what we do
Exactly.
now is just extra.
Exactly.
Definitely making UMES look good on all avenues at all
Absolutely.
times, though. So tell me, how did you get into real estate from your
Yeah.
degree and all of that?
Right. So, actually, that is a story that I love to tell because it's very dear to me how it happened. So, of course, went to college, um, thought, okay, I'm gonna get this fashion degree and business degree and see where it takes me, right? And I started off and I was in the fashion because I was ended up being a manager for what is it? Sunglass Hut. Well, I worked for Sunglass Hut. And then I ended up being a manager for Victoria's Secret. And I moved around in different Victoria's Secrets. And I always told myself, I never just, if I'm going to be in the field, I want to make sure I maximize my position. So I started off as a sales associate, and then I told my manager, well, I want to work my way up. So I started being a supervisor and a lead and all of that stuff. And then it just got to the point where I'm like, what, this just doesn't, it's not it. So then I went to the finance industry, where I was working with like bigger banks like JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and I was doing loans, car loans, credit card loans, and things like that. And then it just still didn't feel right. So at that point, I stuck with it, but again, it didn't feel right. But I did stick with it because I'm not just going to just up and leave and not have a job. But it's crazy how it happened. But now these finance companies started doing something called layoffs. I wasn't familiar with what that was, but finance industries and sometimes these companies, they do have where they come, they look at the finances, they look at the, what's going on that year, and they do cuts and they do payoffs and layoffs. I'm sorry, layoffs. And it was at a point where one of the jobs they did a layoff. And I was a part of that layoff where they let me go. So I'm like, wow, like you could just, this is what happens. They pull you into the office and they say, okay, unfortunately, you know, we're doing layoffs and you're a part of the layoff. And they just let you go. They keep telling me, let them go. So I'm like, okay, so that was hurtful. And then once I stayed in the finance industry, and what I did was the finance industry, they pay good money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what had me stick around for a while because it was good money.
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't feel just fulfilled there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Moved around to another company. And guess what they did? Another layoff.
Same thing.
I said, you know what, God? I was like, I'm not about to keep going through this. I was like, I'm not about to keep getting and being invested in these companies and they just lay me off when they want. I don't like that. I said, I don't want to be a part of a company where my livelihood is in their hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was feeling like. I feel like my livelihood was in the hands of these companies who just laid me off when they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care. They just did it. So I was praying, I was asking God, like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be? Of course, I didn't want to make a move without having something there. And then I remember one of the last layoffs that I had. Well, I'm sorry, it wasn't the last layoff, but one of the second to last layoffs that I had, I became depressed. I was like laid off. I was like sad. I was depressed. I'm like, this is crazy. Like I got rent to pay, like I'm living, on my own. Like I have rent to pay, this to pay. I don't like the way it makes me feel. So I was like, you know what, let me go get my real estate license. I don't know what it was. I think at the time I had seen something and I'm like, I wonder would it be like to get my real estate license. So I pursued it. I went, took the test. With that test, there's a state and a law portion. I think I passed one of them first, and then the other portion I had to retake again, but I didn't let it discourage me. I retook it immediately, probably maybe a few days later, and passed it. And I got my real estate license. And the very first year was so hard. It was super, super hard, like because you literally have to make your own momentum, like you don't get paid unless you sell a house. And I had to now build up clients and build people to trust me with this, like it's
Mm-hmm.
just like anything, you got to build the trust. And I had to really find people who trusted me to help them buy and sell real estate. And there's a million realtors out here. So I had to find my niche. The first year was so hard that I had to go back and find another job. I went back to the finance industry
Mm-hmm.
because I had, that was on my resume. So I knew I can get a job quickly in the finance industry, right?
And make good
So
money.
to make good money because now I'm like, it's not working out for me. Like it's not working. Like I sold one house. I didn't have enough people who trusted me at the time. So I was like, I can't do this. I gotta live. So I had to go back and get a job in the finance industry. And guess what?
You got laid off again.
So you know what? I was like, you know what? This is, you know what, God? I was like, okay. So my husband, we were dating at the time. He's like, you're really good at doing real estate. You should just maybe just go back into it because you really like it. Like when you're in it, you thrive. And I'm like, but the money, like it's not quick enough, for what I need to do. And he was like, you should just go up for it. Just go for it. And let me tell you, thank God for him and the motivation and encouragement because after that, it was like that last one. I said, I can't keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
They laid me off, and then after that, it just took off. Like everything just took off. Like, I mean, I had clients, and every year since then, I have had success where my numbers have increased every year.
I love that. So I want to go back because you said a couple good nuggets that I want to pull out. So you said that you did not pass the one test, but you didn't let that discourage you. I
Nope.
think that is major because oftentimes people see the success.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really talk about when we have hiccups
Yep.
and what it takes to keep going
Yep.
because you can't stop.
You can't stop.
And so that is really, really good.
Yep.
I love to hear that you
Yep.
kept going
Have
because
to.
now look,
Yep.
you keep
Exactly.
going and going. And every time I'm on Facebook and I see another post, I'm saying you getting another award.
Yeah. Yep.
So had you stopped and let that
Exactly.
stop you, that would have been wow. And then
Yep.
I also love to hear you say how you prayed.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your foundation and your Christian beliefs,
Yep.
or I'll let you say what your beliefs
Yep.
are, but
Yep.
tell me more about your belief system and how that has shaped your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a Christian and I am all about faith-based when it comes to that. So everything that I do, I pray for everything. I pray about everything, pray for everything. God is the center of my life, my business, my family. So when it comes to any movement or anything that I do, I had to realize that, God was in control, right? So when I was being, laid off and I just knew something wasn't right, I had to lean to God and say, okay, well, what do you have for me to do? What am I supposed to do? And that's when I really started seeing him take, complete control over, my business outside of my life and my personal life, but even my business aspect of my life. Just really just believing that he has my best interests, and that I have to listen to him, not listen to me. Um, so like me, I'm thinking like, well, I need to make some money. And, like he really had to show me, what I do, because there is a purpose in my business, right? Of course, I help people, selling buy homes, but there is a passion and a purpose behind it where I'm helping these people, build generational wealth, helping these clients of mine, learn how to save in order to, purchase a home, so I'm praying that they, figure out how to do it. I'm praying for them on the background. May not be praying for them directly, in front of them, but they, I'm praying for them constantly, like, Lord, help them figure it out, like give them what they need, help this deal close. So it's just really all in my business, honestly. I'm gonna pray about it. That's one thing I'm gonna do.
Love that. And I mean, I see you just got the Century 21 Centurion award. And
Yes,
so like God's favor is
yes,
clearly showing up as you are putting him first.
yes,
He is
yep,
putting you first and
yep.
elevating you. So tell me about and tell our viewers about how you transition from not just selling homes, but to having your own business.
Yep. Yep. So the transition was definitely not easy. Um and it really, and I would say that the business degree definitely helped, because the business aspect is the part that a lot of people don't really want to talk about, because you have to have that business mindset. You have to have that mindset of helping people. You have to have that mindset of customer service. You have to have the mindset of, I might get a check, but I have to also save, because guess what? As a business owner, you don't know what type of years and months and how things fluctuate. So you can't just get a check and then go splurging and spend all your money, because guess what? The next month might be a
A slow
slower month.
month. Mhm.
So it's really, trying to figure out how to maneuver and understand, and pivot through different seasons and different years and different months. So I think that was the hardest part. Um, because again, we know I got back into finance because finance paid. Real estate, you have to work. You have to work. You have to be consistent. You have to save. And you have to know that like you might get lump sums, but this lump sum might have to last you 6 months, right?
Mhm.
So I think that was like the biggest transition for me, was learning how to become a business owner and knowledgeable and really know how to make my money stretch and how to save and how not to splurge and things like that. Taxes, I hate the taxes. The Lord knows, make me itch. Talk about taxes. No, but you'd be surprised. A lot of business owners don't pay taxes.
And then they're in trouble. And then
Mhm.
it's like, well, I didn't know. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah. And I don't want to do
what
that.
did you
Like
think?
you got to take the time and really go through those things and make sure you're handling your money and your affairs right.
Yes, that's good. And how was that transition with you now? So I want to touch on the baby, but I want to touch on the baby a lot, but I want to touch on this minor part really quick. How did you prepare for you having a baby and not having like a traditional maternity leave where you would
Yeah,
be paid while you're out? So
right.
how have you been planning for this?
Lord, well, that was definitely stressful at first. Um, but then I had to really again pray and ask God to have control over it and tell me how to move and what to do. And he did that, honestly. And he really set it up so that people wouldn't believe that last year I was pregnant, what, because it was January, February, March, April, May. I was pregnant probably 80% of the year, but last year was my biggest year in real estate. Right. Because I prayed and I was like, God, please, like, I want to be able to enjoy this pregnancy. I
Mhm.
don't want to be stressing. I don't want to be, trying to figure out how we're going to make it work when it comes down to my maternity leave that I have to kind of do on my own. And, I said a prayer. And again, I say that a lot, but that's one thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna keep praying. And I asked God to really help and show and navigate that. And he really did that. So like last year was one of um my biggest years, our biggest years as a team. We have the Singletary Phillips group, me and my partner Taye, Singletary. And that was one of our biggest years that we had last year. Right. And it's like, how did you do that pregnant? Like, and honestly, I don't feel like I was overworking. Like I feel
Mhm.
like I don't feel like it was an overworked year. I just felt like I was cruising. And then I
Mhm.
looked up and I'm like, wow, like that really set me up for me to be able to take the leave that I need in the next few months because I was already mentally prepared, right? I already prayed about it. I was already mentally prepared. And then, now in my head, because I prepared mentally, spiritually, now I have what I need, right? So that the plan worked out. So now that when the time comes and I take the leave, I could take it without stressing because it was just all about preparation. Preparation and prayer is what I use and it worked out.
I love that you one of the things that I know is that God will give you the grace for it.
Yep.
And when you said that you didn't feel like you were like
No.
hustling and doing all of that, that's what God will do. He will make something that would seem to the ordinary
Yep.
eye that it is tough. It will be
hmm
easy because He'll give you strength for it. He'll give you
Yep.
the grace for it. And it sounds
Exactly.
like you have been given the grace for
Yes.
it. You
Yes.
certainly look like that.
Oh, thank you.
So I
Yeah.
love to see it. So I want to back up. So tell me about how you met your husband
hmm
and, you guys and how you transitioned from being a single woman to being a wife and
Yeah.
walking in that role
Yep.
of marriage.
Yeah. That's no, I love telling the story. So we actually met at a game night, right? And I was not looking for anything. Like I was at the point where I had gotten out of a relationship, um, still trying to even get out of a relationship. And I was just like over it. I'm like, you know what? I said, I need to be ready for my husband. That was what I was doing. Like I was in wife preparation. That's what I called it, right? I'm like, I need to be getting ready for my husband. I'm not dealing with, anything or anyone that I feel like is not my husband, right? So I was doing a lot of praying, a lot of journaling, a lot of reading. I always talk about this book that my mom gave me, my sister. It's the Proverbs 31 Woman. So I would really like get into that. Proverbs 31, I was reading that book, just really reading up on what a Proverbs 31 woman was, is, and how I can make myself that. Because I said that when my husband comes to find me, I want to be prepared. Like I want to
Mhm.
be spiritually ready, mentally ready. I started working out. I want to be physically ready. So I started really doing like wife preparation for myself, right?
I love that.
So when I started
Oftentimes
doing,
we forget that step. Like we're
yeah,
like out here. Sometimes women are like looking for the husband versus doing that pre-work that
yeah,
we can be doing on ourselves so that we are conditioned
yep,
to,
exactly.
get ready for it.
You
So
got
I
you
love to
have
hear
to, yeah.
this.
So I think that's a good point. I think everyone always like, well, I want this. He need to be this, and it's like, well, what are you like? What are you like? What do you have to offer? So that was like my wife preparation, like summer year. And that night I went out. My sister, she was like, come on, like you just let's go out, And we were invited somewhere, and I was like, I'm not going to this function. Like I don't even feel like being around people, dealing with people, or being around these people. Like I just don't. And she's like, well, just come on. You need to get out. You need to have a good time. And I'm like, okay. So she was like, let's call the girls and let's go. So I called, a few of my friends, my close friends, and we went. And my husband, Devin, he was actually there at this game night, pool party, house party vibe, right? And I seen him, okay. Oh, before that, I also wrote down what I wanted in a husband. I did write that
Okay.
down. I wrote that down, right? I said, I want this. He needs to be God-fearing. He needs to be, a hard worker. He needs to be, all these things, right? All these attributes that I was looking for, right? But God-fearing was in there. Hard worker was in there. I'm trying to remember some of the things. And then I say, and he needs to be tall, dark, and handsome, right? I said, let me throw that in there, God. Let me just throw that in there, just to see, right? So, and I was talking, and I was dating, and as I was talking and dating other people, I'm like, this ain't it. I'll be like, this ain't it. Nope. And I was like, and there was another guy. I'm like, this ain't it. I'm like, this don't feel like this is it. So then when I met my husband, I still at that point I wasn't looking for anything, and but he was tall, dark, and handsome. I'm like, okay, I see that part, but still, I don't. That's all I see right now, right? We kicked it off. We were playing games. We ended up being partners during a game. And it was cool. Like, we were both competitive during the game. We won. We started high-fiving, having a good time laughing. And then he asked my number. And we exchanged numbers at the game night.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it happened. Of course, we had some little moments, here and there where we're trying to figure each other out, trying to figure out this is what it was. And, me, I was at a point where I had no tolerance. So if you wasn't showing me, it was like, you know what?
Gotta
No,
go.
yep, no hard feelings. But, like we could be friends because he was a really good guy, but it was just still some things I'm like, I don't know. He came back around after we took like a little break, and it was just like, God showed like, okay, this is it. Like, this might be it. And I was just like, I think might be my husband.
Okay.
How would happen?
So how was the process of becoming a wife? Like, you did your wife preparation.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that wife preparation truly prepared you when you actually, because a lot of times I know I was guilty of this.
Mm-hmm.
I had my whole wedding planned at 5, I feel
Yeah.
like, and I
Yep.
would change out the bridesmaids
Yep.
when my
Uh-huh.
friends would piss me off,
Yep. Uh-huh.
and I would clearly change out the groom.
Yep.
But I had the wedding plan, but I don't necessarily think I had, well, I know I didn't. I did not have the marriage plan.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents were not married, so I did not see marriage like in my home
Right.
firsthand to
Right.
know what to expect. So I don't know if my expectations really matched
Right.
the wedding versus the marriage.
Right.
So how did your wife prep help you for the marriage,
Yep.
or how did it
Right.
not?
I feel like it helped me, and it helped me a lot more so internally, because I feel like when it comes to marriage, you have two people who are coming together to be one. And you have to also look at the foundation piece, and you have to take that person's background, your background, and you're blending, everything together. So I felt like more so the spiritual aspect of it really helped me, because I used to be very stubborn. Like, I used to be kind of, I would say, like spoiled a little bit, like
I didn't know we could be spoiled. We're not
I
talking about that on this
listen,
show,
li
Chantre. No.
listen, listen, and I'm still spoiled. So, but it is, but like it was very so more so stubborn, like, oh, well, my way or no way,
Mhm.
right? You can't be like that when you're married. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at both parties, and you have to basically take into consideration two people, how they feel. You got to take into consideration your husband's feelings. You got to take into consideration, he has to take into consideration your feelings, right? So it's like, I can't just be like, oh, I'm mad at you, bye. Like, I can't do that because now I'm married, right? So it's like
Mhm.
really just being humble and just like dying to yourself and say, okay, like, I have this husband. He's a really good husband. Like, I can't be so harsh and say, okay, I'm mad. Like, let me just leave outside and take a ride. So it was like really the spiritual aspect helped me to be like more understanding and more, open to understanding what a husband needs. And we actually did marriage counseling. So
Good,
marriage
good.
counseling was something that helped us completely. And it really helped us really look at all aspects of the marriage. So we did that before we even got married. And that really helped because that set the foundation.
I think that's good. What I love to say is that you touched on it when you said two people coming from different backgrounds.
Mhm.
It's not to say that one background is right or one
Mhm.
background is wrong. It's just two different ways of
Yep.
thinking. And
Yep.
I love to look at conflict as preferences versus
Yep.
actual conflict. So, your way is just your preference, and it's
Yep.
because of what you saw,
Yep.
versus my way. Like, for instance, my husband, so I grew up with, like, my mom being a single mom, so she had to do everything. And so leaning on anybody
Mhm.
was not necessarily in my know with all.
Yep. Yep.
um I grew up like, oh, I'm gonna come up with a solution, I'm gonna figure it
Mhm.
out, and this is just what it is. Whereas my husband's background, far as like men being men and
Mhm.
like taking care of things, that could cause like a clash,
Yep.
because if I feel like I got it, he's
Yep.
not going to be able to get it.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
it's not that I think that he is incapable of getting
Right.
it. It is more so I'm just used to having to
I
get
mean,
it.
get it. Yep. Yep.
So that shift
Yep.
is
It's the shift.
definitely a
Yep.
thing.
Yep. It's a thing. Thing. It's definitely a thing. Absolutely.
But it's a good thing. It's those
Yeah.
growing pains.
Yep.
It's those growing pains of marriage, and
Yep.
so it's
Exactly.
for the par for the course,
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
for
Yep.
sure. So tell me, now you are transitioning from not just being wife to mom.
Yep.
Tell me about that journey.
Well, listen, we laugh and we talk about it, and we just in our head, we try to plan it out, and we really don't know. We don't know. Like, I think we had this in our head, like, oh yeah, we're gonna be like this, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna be this way. He's like, I feel like we're gonna be that way, and we got this, and it's just like we're really at the point where we're just anxious to get into it, right? Because it's like one of those things where you just like get thrown into the deep end.
Yep. You gonna sink or swim, and
We
baby,
gonna
you
take
gonna
a swim.
swim.
Yep,
You
yep,
gonna
yep.
swim.
And we're gonna swim. We're gonna swim. But we're gonna figure out how to swim. We need a little float. We're gonna figure it out. But we're gonna swim. So we're now at that point where we're just anxious to get into it because we feel like we have been preparing. We have conversations. One thing we have is we're gonna have conversations. We have a lot of conversations. We talk about things. We talk about how we want to be helped, how we may not want to be helped, like how we want to make sure that as a unit, what we're doing in these times versus like not allowing family to over you know
Yes. Yep.
you
Yep.
know so it's just like having those conversations. So we're not sure how it's going to work. We do know, like you said, we're going to swim. We do believe we're going to swim and everything's going to be fine, but we just are anxious to like get into it to see how things go.
I think that's exciting. I think setting the foundation early,
Yeah.
especially, I'm really big now on boundaries.
Yeah,
But I
boundaries, that's the
think
word I was looking for. Setting
I
those
feel like
boundaries.
I'm only big on boundaries because I lacked so many boundaries in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
So I am so happy to hear you talk
Boundaries.
about
We've
boundaries.
been
I
talking about them
think
boundaries.
it is so important. You
Yes.
have got to have boundaries. And I think that there is a way that you can have boundaries with love and it
Yes.
not be taken
Absolutely.
offensively.
Mhm.
I think parents, one of the things my mother used to do, um my mother, when I first had my first child, she still was working. My husband's mom, she would watch our son
Mhm.
because he didn't go to childcare when he first was born. But so my mother, of course, wanted to still spend time with him, but she worked, so she would want to come over every night, like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and she would get him amped up,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like it would be during a time where he might fall asleep and he would just
Yeah.
lay on her and go to sleep. Her
Yeah.
intention was for him to be amped up and have fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what would happen is he would just lay on
Yeah. All
her
right.
and
Go
he
to
would
sleep.
just sleep.
Yep.
And then she would go home and then we would be up all night.
Yep.
We would be up. And so she didn't, it wasn't that she had bad intentions for us to
Yeah.
be up all night.
Yeah.
She genuinely wished he was up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's what we have been talking about, just those boundaries, setting those boundaries and what that looks like, if we are, the parents, and this is how we are expected to run the household with the baby, just making sure that we keep that in line with our boundaries and, how we set things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what y'all say goes.
Exactly. Yep.
Everybody has to get in line.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So how do you guys how will you plan balancing motherhood with working and all of
Yep.
that?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So that's, another thing that I prayed about. I said I wanted to definitely be, here and, in the moment. So I'm so grateful that, like I said, I have a team. I have my partner, Taye, and it's all about preparation and conversations. Like we've been preparing for this probably for almost a year. Like she knows, the motherhood journey was coming for me for a while. So we've had been having these preparation conversations for at least a year. So we've already had things in place. We have the team. I have a team of people who are stepping in. The good thing about what I do is I can do a lot of it from my computer from home. Those things that I cannot do in the beginning where I'm not stepping out. I have my team, like, and they are amazing. They are, we all have the same, morals and the ethics and things like that. So like if my clients, need to speak with them, I don't have anything to worry about. So really it was preparation. So preparation, talking and communicating with those people who are, in my team, within my team, explaining to them, and just making sure that things are just, set.
That's good. I
Yes,
love to hear
I
that.
do plan on listen. And if I need to take baby girl to a showing with me, I'm gonna strap her up, listen, and we're gonna go show this house.
And that's the modern day, the millennial
Yes,
missus. That
listen.
is that is what it is. If we gotta do it, we gotta do
Yeah,
it. That's
listen,
how it's gonna
listen.
get done.
Yeah, if we need to strap her up and the time's come and I'm fully recovered and it's time for me to step out, because I do plan on trying to be with her as long as possible. Like I said, the good thing about being an entrepreneur, you can make your own schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I can take her to certain things with me, certain meetings and things like that. So she will definitely be with me for as long as possible. And then, just transitioning to see, what that looks like with daycare after that.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
I love to hear that. So did you guys plan to have baby girl right now, or did it
We
just
did.
happen?
We did plan. Yes, we have been
Okay.
planning for a while. So, and you got to really be okay with God's timing, like, cause some people, they say like, oh, you're married now, have the baby, have this, have that. And, and of course we got caught up in that, it was getting stressful. Like, okay, we had, we got to do this, we got to have the baby. And then it was a time where, we realized our time, and it's not our timing, but God's time is the perfect timing. Right. So as we were waiting for God to speak to us and give us direction on what we need to do in order to have baby girl, right? We said, let's enjoy life. So we literally, like, we were enjoying life. We were traveling. We were like building the connection with each other, like building our marriage, making our marriage stronger. Um, to the point where like our foundation, like it's like super strong, right? Because we really took that time to listen to God, but to also love on each other, so that now when we're here, it's like it's just all flowing together. It's just all flowing together.
I love that. I love that. Definitely advice I wish that I had taken. I did not, and I think that it shifts the dynamic because
Mm-hmm.
number one, when you're taking on a new role, it's already
Mm-hmm.
you are in uncharted territory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so like when I became a wife, I became a mom too.
Yeah.
All like very close in time. So those roles were just like,
Yeah.
and I was still young. I was 25.
Right.
So at that point in time, I really was still figuring out who
Yeah.
I was as a
Yep.
person to then add on these extra
Yep.
hats.
Yep.
So I love to hear it. And I know that if I could go back to my 25-year-old self, the self that knew it all and that knew that everything that she said was right,
Yeah.
I would not have been able to take this advice. But 36-year-old me is like, girl, what you should have done
Right.
was scaled it on back, did a little
Mm-hmm.
thing a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love to hear that that is the way that you did things
Absolutely.
and balance it. So what were let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
What was your expectation your 18-year-old self, what
Mhm.
was your expectation for where you would be at this very moment?
Oh, wow. You know what? I don't think I really, I didn't, I don't think I really thought about where I would be at 18. I think I was like just so going with the flow that I didn't even set up an expectation
Mm-hmm.
for where I thought I would be. I did always know that I wanted to be married. I did. Like that is something like I grew up, my parents have been married for 36 years, 37 years.
Kudos. I
Yeah.
love it.
So I've always seen
A
marriage,
strong
right? And a
foundation.
strong foundation. So I always knew I wanted to be married. So that's why when I started getting older, when I mean older, I started getting to like my 20s and I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't looking like marriage. Like I'm gonna have to pivot, like, because this isn't looking like what I want it to be, you know? So I will say 18, I would say if I couldn't imagine where I would be, I would definitely say the marriage portion is definitely it. I would say this is what I could imagine it to be. Um, didn't know I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew I just knew that I wanted to definitely be somewhere doing something that I loved, but did not expect to be an entrepreneur. I didn't expect that until like I said, probably around like 23, 24 when the layoffs started happening. I'm like, oh no, like this there's no other way for me but to be an entrepreneur because if I'm gonna have control over somebody what I'm getting paid, I'm gonna have that control, not someone else. But
Mhm.
18-year-old, I would definitely say the marriage piece.
Okay. So marriage
Yeah.
has always been
Yeah.
important for you.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And so how have you been able to, seeing your parents be married for so long, were there any traditions that kind of stuck out to you that you knew for sure I definitely want to incorporate that into my
Hmm.
marriage?
Yes, I would definitely say the the foundation, the faith foundation. So we've been raised in church. I've been in church ever since I was can remember. So definitely knew that, just being in a good grounded church was a part of it. Um, you know, having somewhere to fellowship is important. That and then I would say holidays. We're really big on just, the holidays and spending time with family. And then we do family vacation. So that's a big thing for us. So like a family vacation is something that we do every year. We have been doing it every year.
Now, this
And
is your whole family?
whole family. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Once a year we get together and we go somewhere. So that's
Okay.
something that we've incorporated and my husband has grown to love it. We look forward to it every year. So I would definitely think so if you notice, it's really that family time, that the faith and being able to be grounded. So those are the most important things that I've seen that I have incorporated into my marriage as well.
Okay. And so you as a wife now, I know that you talked about you going out with your friends and things like that.
Mhm.
How do you balance your friends that aren't necessarily married or
Mhm.
in relationships and maybe some of your married friends? How do you balance that?
Well, I think we're still learning that and figuring that
Okay.
out. Because sometimes we go weeks, months without, hearing or talking and seeing each other, and we just kind of just get in where we can fit in. That's really
Hmm.
what we do. It's really getting it, and we understand that. It's like we all have an understanding that we're all navigating life, we're all pivoting, we're all figuring it out. We're all in different transitions. Some of us are new moms, some of us have, kids that are, 12, 13. So it's really just having that understanding with the friendships. And we get it where we can fit in. Like, it might we might say, hey, what y'all doing next month? It's funny because we used to could say like what you doing next week,
Nope.
but now it's like what y'all doing next month. So
Yeah. And
kind of
sometimes it's more than just next month.
yeah, it's like in a few months. So I think it's really important just to communicate and then just to check on that, check on our friends, check on and say, hey, how you doing, what's going on, and understanding that everyone has a life.
Yes, I definitely love that.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
think balancing the different roles, especially
Yep.
when you are transitioning, can oftentimes be a juggling act.
Yep.
trying to still be a good friend
Yep.
while being a wife, while being
Yep.
a mother, while also showing up for you.
Yep. Yep.
And one of the things that I struggle with is self-care. And
Mm.
so you tell me, where are you with self-care and what does self-care look like for you? And I might be stealing some ideas if you got some good ones.
Yeah,
So what do you
listen.
got?
Listen, self-care is very important to me. That's one thing I'm going to do. Because if you look good, you feel good, everything else is going to be good. You're going to show up, you know? So one thing that I try to do, I haven't been able to do it as much as working out. Love, love, love to work out. Before I was pregnant, so I worked out all the way up until maybe 3 or 4 months, and then my doctor told me I had to sit down because I started having my cervix started shortening too quickly, right? So my doctor told me like, all right, you're going to sit down. They had to actually put a stitch. It's called a cerclage. I had to get a stitch.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, a part of my pregnancy, I had to get a stitch, which is a cerclage, to make sure that my cervix stayed closed during the pregnancy, right? So that really was like, oh, that was like my self-care, like the working out piece. I mean, I got up 5 o'clock in the morning and I would work out. I would get up at 5. I would work out. I'd be to my trainer by 6. And that started my day. I would do
Mm-hmm.
my devotions on the way to the gym. So I had like a whole little thing. I was like, boom, wake up, do my devotions, pray on the way to the gym, work out. Boom. That was the best self-care that I could do. So when I had to sit down for a while, I'm like, dang, like that was my thing. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was like that's like people pay for stuff, like, but I paid for a trainer. That was my self-care because I felt like when I worked out, it made me feel good. So that was the
I
biggest,
love that.
like that was it. Like people can pay for a whole lot of different things and that's their choice. But I felt like me paying for a trainer was my self-care. That was what I like to do. So I can't wait to get back till they clear me because I'm gonna be right back working out. And I would say definitely, just the little things, keep my hair done, girl, because when my hair ain't done, I just feel out of whack. I need to keep my hair done. Keep my hair done. Um, and then I like to do spas. Like I do like a nice spa now. I
I
do like
love a good
so
spa day. I just
yeah.
don't always have the time to devote
Yeah.
to a spa
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
I am working towards this workout
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
What I've been doing this year is I'm not calling it a diet. I'm literally calling it a health lifestyle shift.
Okay.
Um,
I like
because
that.
I'm a foodie. I love some
Me
good food,
too. Me too.
but all the foods are not necessarily good for us,
No, they're
especially as
not.
Black women.
No, they're
And
not.
so I have been, and I also don't. So I said I'm working on the gym, but I don't really like the gym yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I gotta choose one, I feel like I'm gonna choose eating a little bit better than
Okay.
having to spend 3 hours in the gym.
Okay.
So
Well,
that's
well,
what I
that's
have been
good.
doing.
That's
Baby
good.
steps.
That's good.
Baby
Food,
steps.
food is actually the biggest part of,
Yes.
they say. So you picking the food, that's great.
I picked the food and I can honestly say the results have been slow, but I hear that the results are slow because I'm already like not really super big
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So the results have been slow. However, in my body as a whole, I just feel better.
Feel
And I
good.
think
Yep.
that is where we have to get to. Like
Yep.
as a culture, we
Yep.
have to treat our bodies truly like they are our temples,
Simple. Yep.
and what we put in them
Yep.
makes a world of difference.
It
And
sure
as
does.
much as I love some macaroni and cheese and yams and some
Listen.
biscuits and cookies
Yeah, all of
and
that.
cakes and pies,
Listen.
I'm gonna just limit it, and
Yep.
maybe we don't gotta do it 5 days a week.
Yep. There you go. Just limit
Maybe
it.
we can have a good Sunday dinner,
There you go. Baby steps.
and then during the week have a salad.
There you go.
So I have been doing no starch, well, low
Okay.
starch, low carbs, low carbs,
Yep.
no bread, no
Okay.
sweets, and so heavy protein and
Yep.
veggie
That's good.
diet. And so it's been interesting.
That's good though. That's a great start.
It's been
That's a
interesting. I'm
great
like,
start.
woo, self-care. Okay, I'm caring. I be telling my
Okay.
body,
I'm
listen, I'm
caring
doing
about
this for
myself.
you.
Yep.
You better appreciate this.
Yep. I'm caring about myself. Exactly. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yes, I think being a mom of two,
Yeah.
and juggling, like when your kids get older, I think it sometimes get lost in the sand
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
not necessarily taking the time for you.
Mhm.
So I love to hear that you already have something in play
Yep.
so that you can keep that tradition going with your children.
Yep.
So what would you tell? I know what you said, what you were thinking at 18, but if you could go back to your 18-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
what would you tell that girl?
Don't waste no time.
I
Don't
love that.
don't waste no time. Like
How much
whatever.
time do we waste,
Don't we
really?
whatever that is, don't waste no time because I feel like there have been so many things and I could just I wasted time. But I would say just don't waste no time.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I think we have all
Yeah,
wasted
wasted
time
time.
on frivolous
Whatever
matters,
it
on frivolous
is. And
people,
people, things,
things,
places,
jobs.
all of that. Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
And if we could have just taken that time to
Yep.
truly invest and know that God, what I realize now is that we wasted a lot of time not leaning on God
Yep.
sooner. Had
Exactly.
we leaned on God sooner
Sooner.
and
Yep.
trusted God's process for our life
Yep.
sooner, um,
Exactly.
it's a whole process that we could have just skipped.
Yeah, we could
I
skip it.
remember when I graduated from UMES, number one, I didn't really enjoy, like, I wasn't at parties and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
for me, I was going home.
Yeah.
My
That's how it
boyfriend
was
was at
after
home.
my sophomore year. I didn't want to come back because I'm over this. Like I'm ready to come home.
I didn't, but at the same time, I didn't put that effort into like my degree and like
Hmm.
schooling. And so when I finished, I felt like I don't know what I'm gonna do with this degree.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to be a doctor anymore.
Yeah.
Let me just be real transparent. I don't think I'm gonna get into medical school with the
Right.
degree.
Right.
And I just want a job and I don't really know what I want to do.
Yep.
But from the time of graduating in 2010
Yep.
to me now about to graduate law school in 2025, that was a long 15 years that
Yeah.
if we could have just tapped in a little bit
Exactly.
sooner, we could have
Absolutely.
like killed a lot of this extra
We
stuff.
could have. We could have. But
So
it's
yes,
okay.
I
It's
love that.
okay. We learned through the process.
Yes, yes, but we not wasting no more
We're not
time.
wasting
No
no more
more
time. Mm-mm.
no more time. So I want everybody to be able to connect to you after maternity leave. Don't try to bother her right
Listen.
now. But listen, after she pop baby girl out, you can send
Yeah.
her a message. She can work with
Yes.
you virtually.
Yeah.
How can people find you? I love to be able to connect our viewers with you. How can they
Sure.
connect with you?
So I am on Instagram, Chantre underscore real estate, CHANTRE underscore real estate. You can find me on Facebook under Chantre Phillips. And you can email me, Chantre at harrishawkinsandco.com.
Okay, and I'm going to make sure that I have everything in the description so that they can connect with you,
Yeah,
whatever stage they are at in their home
absolutely.
buying process or home selling process.
Absolutely.
And I am just wishing you all the best, sending you
Thank
all the
you.
positive prayers
Thank you so
for
much.
your delivery. Oh,
Thank you.
wait, are you nervous about anything about this delivery?
I don't know. So I'm not nervous. I think I'm more nervous about the pain level because people say different things. So I think like I feel like I have good pain tolerance, but I
Mhm.
think I'm more so nervous about like what that's gonna feel like.
Are you doing natural or what are you
So
thinking?
I'm open. I would love to go natural, but please, if I need to get some epidural or whatever, I'm not gonna shun it. No, I will take it. But I would
So
love
I've
to
done both.
I
And
would love to try to go natural.
I've done both.
Okay.
I didn't, not by choice.
Okay.
The second one was natural, and so if I did it again, I probably would still start off saying that I'm going to do it natural,
Yeah.
just because of my experience, and that's not to shy away anything else,
Yeah.
but every experience is different. I've
That's
had
what I
two
heard.
children and my pregnancies were totally different.
Yep.
After my pregnancy was totally different.
Yeah.
The things that I went through with both of them were totally
Totally
different.
different. Yeah.
So I don't think that anybody can necessarily, they can give you their
Yeah, but
experiences,
they can't tell you how
but
it's gonna be.
they can't tell you how it's going to be. And as you've seen in your life, like God, what God has for you, God's going to do for you.
Yep,
And so
absolutely.
I am praying with and for you in this
Thank
process
you.
that your delivery is going to be more than just smooth, but it's
Thank
going to be
you.
God ordained. And that we are praying to touch the doctors, to touch
Yep.
the nurses, to
Yes.
touch everybody that is in the room. And
Yep.
if you decide to get an epidural, we are praying for them as well,
Exactly.
that they administer it well, that they
Yep.
do it with a spirit of excellence, and that you have the most splendid
Thank
delivery
you.
that
Thank
makes you
you.
just want to go and do it all over
Thank
again
you.
real
Thank
quick.
you. Thank you. Amen. I
Multiply.
receive. I receive. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much for taking time
You're
out of
welcome.
your busy schedule to come and talk to all of the amazing
Of
women who are
course.
viewing the Millennial Mrs. podcast. And again, please go and connect with Chantre, follow her, all of the things. And listen, we got to celebrate each other. We got to
Yeah.
root for each other. We have to pump each other up. When I see other women's success, that's the table that I enjoy being at.
Mhm.
I love to see other people thrive.
Yeah.
So I love it. Keep posting all the
Thank
great things you got
you.
going on.
Thank
And I'm
you.
also believing that this year is going to be even better than last year.
Listen, I receive it. Thank you.
It's
Listen.
going to be great. So
Thanks for
thank
having me.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.